Welcome everybody. Fun and games looking at the Championship stadiums yesterday. Here comes the Premier League edition. We are ranking all 20 Premier League stadiums for the 2024-25 season. Too many 20s. From worst to best. Get involved in the comments. Let's make this very, very clear from the outset. There is one criteria here, and it is your opinion. How do you feel about these stadiums? Which do you like going to the best? It's that simple. Don't overthink it, guys. It's not that deep. We don't want your data on which stadium is the biggest, oldest, tallest, which one's got the brightest floodlights and can serve the most pies per hour pre-game. It's just the ones you like going to the most. And of course, we know your club's stadium is most special to you. You don't have to concoct some argument to put that one right to the top. We know it's going to be up there. But we're not starting at the top. We're starting at the bottom with Bournemouth. The Vitality. Apologies to Bournemouth fans. Somebody's got to be bottom. It's a bit of an outlier, Bournemouth Stadium in the Premier League. Does feel a little bit parochial, I have to say. Does look rather lovely from that aerial picture there. But it's fairly small. And in terms of the kind of historical significance, Bournemouth are obviously building that up right now. So I am going to put Bournemouth down there at 20th. I don't think there's plans to either move or make it much, much bigger. So I think it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm sure the Bournemouth fans love it nonetheless. In at 19, Crystal Palace. Now, I will say straight away, if we were ranking just on atmosphere, that big stand behind the goal at Selhurst Park is mighty, mighty loud. And plenty of big clubs in the Premier League come a cropper playing down at Selhurst, particularly on midweek games in the evening, don't they? But it can be a bit grotty getting in and out of there. And it's not the greatest for away fans in terms of the view or the access, all that stuff. So I'm sure the Palace fans love their particular home. But I'm going to put it down at 19th. And at 18th, I'll get flack for this, won't I? West Ham. Now, some of you may say, oh, what a beautiful stadium passed over from the... Was it the Olympics? I think it was the Olympics, wasn't it? Over in Stratford. I don't know. It's just not for me. It's not a football stadium, is it? Now, I know the West Ham fans have kind of grown into it, but if you're my age, West Ham's Upton Park. Maybe I just need to get with the times. Just a running track and being that far from the pitch and the sloping of it and whatnot. But ho-hum, I get it. It's a beautiful stadium and it's been good for West Ham. Just not for me, I have to say. And the reigning champions, Man City. Again, a lot of people would have this one near the top. I went there a couple of seasons ago and I've got to say it was boring. It was. Man City beat Forest 6-0. Haaland scored a hat-trick. He had about 4 touches. And it was all just a little bit dull, wasn't it? All very sanitised and lovely and branded and light blue everywhere. My seat was lovely. There was Wi-Fi and all of that stuff. Give me Main Road any day of the week. But yeah, maybe I just went on the wrong day for it to be a bit of an event there. But yeah, they were twiddling their thumbs, the season ticket holders around me at the Etihad. 16, Brighton, again, similar reasons, and this one's very out of town, is it? I forget the place it's actually in, but it's nowhere near Brighton. If you wanted to actually go and visit Brighton, you have to kind of do that first, and Brighton is a really fun place to visit, so not necessarily the best for away following football fans. It's called the Amex as well. It's all very, very corporate, isn't it, down there? And look, I appreciate Brighton have done brilliantly as a club, and God, they were at a blooming athletic stadium, so they needed it. But yeah, it does feel a little bit of a disconnect from what I love about a football stadium and what Brighton have had to do in this modern era. They're 16th. And in 15th, look at my South Coast bias here. Bit of an identikit stadium, and we'll come on to one at 15 that's very similar to it, down at Southampton. I went there a couple of times last season. Look, it's all very kind of square and, you know, it's nice going down there. Went down there for a midweek. Bit windy down there on the south coast, wasn't it? But yeah, look, I do prefer the away fans behind the goal there rather than in the corner in the next stadium we're going to think about. But yeah, right size for Southampton, a little bit identikit, I've got to say. If you're a Southampton fan, did you prefer the Dell? You tell me. And, of course, the comparison we're going to make is the King Power, Leicester, in 14th, which feels like the same stadium in blue, doesn't it? Look, what I will say about the King Power is the presentation is great. You do get a bit of a chill when they do the big video screens about the title win, which was a real iconic moment in that stadium in English football. I have to say, I went there with Leicester top of the league and coasting it last season in the Championship. Fans a little bit grumpy there. Not entirely sure about the atmosphere, but I'm sure it would be better up in the Premier League this season. Leicester are 14th. And Brentford are 13th. And I'm kind of using this as I'm maybe less about the stadium and more about what it signifies in terms of Brentford moving up the divisions in the last sort of decade or so. And moving from the incredibly characterful Griffin Park across to the G-Tech. I've only been there once, but it was great. Great atmosphere in the evening. Freed from desire. Blah, blah, blah. And when I talk about Rotherham in the Championship, I always put Rotherham quite high because it's the perfect stadium and size for that club. It may not be the biggest or the kind of funkiest in terms of the Premier League, but it's very perfect for Brentford, and I'm sure their fans there are gravitating to it, and it really feels like home. I liked it. In 12th, look, how can I speak objectively about Ipswich Town? I can't, so I'll say what I'm going to say, and you'll call me biased, and you'll be right. Obviously, I've been there hundreds of times. I have a season ticket there. I do think there is a lot of history there, going back to the 80s and to the 60s at Portman Road. I do think a lot of away fans are going to enjoy simply because they haven't been there. And it's not a new build stadium, is it? It's going back in the Pioneer and the Cobbold Stand are donkey's years old. So I think there's a lot of history. I bloody love it. And I'm probably speaking completely emotionally about this, which everyone's going to do about their stadium anyway. So I'll put Ipswich 12th and plead the 5th and come at me in the comments. Yeah. 11th, Wolves. There's always been something kind of classic about Wolves. When was it? Was it the 80s they built up Molineux? It always kind of felt quite unique with the sort of shape of the stands. You can see the two stands alongside the goal. Feels like you're in a bit of a valley there, don't you? Always very, very loud, and even just down to the colour there, the old gold of Wolves just feels different than other stadiums. They're a noisy bunch as well every time I've been there at Wolves. I've got to say, I think the stadium acoustics are good and holds the sound in very, very nicely, and I think it's been modernised without necessarily taking that classic sheen off it. Wolves in 11th. Quick pause for the cause to plug our friends over at Beer52. You can see that beautiful presentation of beers behind me. They sent me a monster pack. I have to say, what I'm offering you is not the monster pack, but a free pack of 8, a case of 8 beers. You can either have craft beers or dark beers, beautifully created by the people up in Scotland at Beer52. Fantastic product. You can have it for free. You just got to pay the postage, £5.95. You get your beers, you get your Ferment magazine, which you can see down there, and some beautiful bar snacks as well. All you need to do, head to the website via my code there. So it's www.beer52.com/bloom. That is www.beer5252.com/bloom. Get involved, pay the postage, £5.95. Free case of beer. Please drink responsibly. Let's go to the top 10. And I'm sticking Chelsea in at 10. I'm a bit conflicted with Chelsea because I remember the cars parked in the track. Was it a Greyhound track? Well, I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe wrong about that. And fences up and whatnot. And they have kind of, merged it into a modern day stadium. It does still carry some of that grottiness, but whatever you say about the Abramovich era, there's now a lot of iconic Premier League things happened there, and there is something about it, isn't there, over at Chelsea. So I'm going to put it up as my first in the top 10. And again, I'm conflicted on this. I said this about Luton and QPR when I was doing the Championship yesterday. Everton, yes, objectively is falling down. Yes, objectively they are moving away from it, and that says that it can't be too much higher. But it's a glorious old stadium despite all its faults, and you can't see Naffle from the away end in the corner there. Look at that with the street and the houses right across it. Compare that to the identikit stadiums. There's something glorious about it. We can't go too much higher because they are openly admitting that they're done at Goodison. Last year, this year, isn't it? And they're going to be moving away to a new modern identikit stadium. But yeah, lots and lots of history and a great stadium there. Maybe one of the last holdouts there at Goodison Park. I'll put Arsenal. Now, a lot of people will have Arsenal higher in this list because of the sheer size of it. And it is our first gargantuan, massive, super mega bowl stadium there. Now, what I will say about Arsenal is I haven't been there for a few years, and I've been told since Arteta's there and the fan base is more linked, the atmosphere has been much, much better. So I may go this season and change my mind and put it up a little bit. Just the last couple of times I went a few years ago was a bit soulless. Maybe it was the final days of the Wenger era, and it felt you had this stadium that had almost been a millstone around the club's neck while they tried to survive to pay for it. And it was a bit grumpy and a bit quiet in this kind of bowl, which did make it feel a little bit soulless. But I do believe the soul has come back from what I hear about the atmosphere under Arteta. So Arsenal, maybe with the caveat they could be going up. And what a classic stadium this is. I love going to Nottingham Forest. Is there a more authentic stadium in the Premier League? Maybe Forest is number one for that. Look at that. It's an absolute beauty there just by the Trent. Okay, that Brian Clough stand is potentially in need of some work, isn't it? Love the stand behind the goal there, the big Trent end. Away fans over in that corner. And it just still feels, with Brian Clough and Peter Taylor named, it still feels like that great Forest aura where they built that club up, didn't they, in the 70s and 80s, and it still feels like it carries that authenticity. Again, there is some sense they want to do a lot of work there and a lot of back and forth between various local authorities, I believe, there. But as it is, I think maybe the most authentic stadium in the Premier League there, the City Ground. And who doesn't love an away day at Fulham? Whenever I ask people and poll them, what's your favourite away day? Everyone loves going to Fulham. And this is a very English thing, because if you wanted to take a tourist, and people will say, why do you want to do that, Ben? It's about the English football fans. But let me just make my point and say, have an experience, Go and get on the tube in London, go and head down to Putney or wherever it is you get off and walk through those beautiful kind of houses and the parks along the River Thames as well to get to Craven Cottage. Yes, I take your points about the new stand, and it's a bit different now, and I take the Fulham fans' point about the ticket prices as well. But it's a wonderful walk-in and a great away day, especially if you get it in August, isn't it, going down to Fulham. So it may not be the biggest. The prices may be a little bit shady at the moment, and I'm sure they'll work on that. But yeah, I love going down to Fulham. Top 5 time, guys. Newcastle. It's just magnificent, isn't it? And what I love about Newcastle is the way that it just dominates the city sky. Look at the bloody size of those big stands there. I'm sure if they could extend any further, they would, because those Newcastle fans are mad and they would fill it. But just when you're in Newcastle, it just dominates everywhere you're seeing. Slight criticism, bring the away fans out of the blooming galaxy and the skies up there. But yeah, great noise, great colours with the black and white. Great place to go and watch football. Newcastle United St James's in 5th. And in 4th, I will go for Liverpool. Now, I've heard, and I haven't been in a couple of years, it's got a bit touristy up there since that main stand and with the success under Klopp and the first title in years and years. But something about that place, isn't it? So iconic. Great noise in there. It kind of dwarfs it, doesn't it? That huge main stand that's recently been built up there. But I think a club with that iconography deserves to be amongst the biggest attended every week. And of course, the Kop alone is an incredible stand there. So much history there at that stadium. Let's hope it can not turn too touristy, let's just say. In 3rd, Aston Villa. I bloody love Villa Park. Even growing up, all those FA Cup semi-finals there, the majesty of it, and so many fans of the big clubs going to the Cup semi-finals do say that as well. And the right mix of old school authenticity there with the new built-up. You see that massive Trinity stand there as well. The whole end is gigantic. It's bloody noisy in there. I went to a Villa Birmingham game there and it was tremendous. You drive down the M6 Spaghetti Junction and you can't help but just go, look at Villa Park there. What a place. What a great stadium. Love going to Villa. In second place, Manchester United. Now, a few people are going to say, Ben, put that down lower. It's falling down. It needs a lick of paint. And lots of people complain about it. Yes, that's all true. And remember the water cascading down into the stadium last year? Agree with all of that. But it's a magical place, isn't it? I love the whole Theatre of Dreams iconography about it. Bloody size of it as well. Just gigantic. Yes, I get the tourist trap thing, but you know, there's a reason people are coming from around the world to go to Old Trafford. And you can feel it, can't you? When you're walking into a game there, all of the cafes and, okay, it's a bit capitalist with everybody selling, but just red everywhere. And George Best and Cantona and David Beckham and Brian Robson and Dennis Law and the Holy Trinity and all of that stuff. It's just an incredible place and a history built up around that stadium. And I suspect it goes back to number one if they tart it up and get back to the top of English football. But my number one is Spurs. Who says Spurs don't win anything, hey? And some people claim this is not just the best stadium in the Premier League, but in European and world football. And what I think they've done really well is built a modern stadium, but they've kind of kept the Spurs feel, and it doesn't feel too identical, and there's this excitement, there's the size. I think the lines of sight are better, the sound is better. Come at it from outside and it looks beautiful all lit up, doesn't it? I think they've done a magnificent job in terms of, look, White Hart Lane was massively, massively full of character. They were at Wembley for a while, weren't they? As well, Spurs, but another London stadium, and I think it's just magnificent, isn't it? Been there a couple of times, and, well, you tell me, is there a better stadium in English or European football? I have got the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at number one, and it's time for you to have your say in the comments. Again, don't worry about your data and trying to make arguments. I know I'm spitting in the wind, asking football fans not to be tribal. It's not about your stadium being better than somebody else's. This is celebrating all 20 of the stadiums. And think about away stadiums as well. Which do you most prefer to go to? It is all opinion. Let's try and keep it fun and have a debate about some great stadiums. Please try your best to respect other people's right to opinion. And we've already had a bit yesterday on the Championship video. Try not to get angry, offended, or emotional. It's not a competition. It's not that deep. I want to hear. Give me your top threes, your top fives. Where do you least like going? Let me know in the comments. And I've plugged it a few times. Click over here for our Championship Stadiums video. Exactly the same thing, but you get a bit of a bonus there. You get 4 more stadiums in there, ranking the Championship stadiums from worst to best. All good fun, guys. I'll put my helmet on now and hide in the bunker as your comments come in. Get involved with ranking Premier League stadiums from worst to best.